I know. The movie wasn't that amazing, but want to make up some rumors to get the internet talking about what it could have been forever?
Hell yeah.
They'll never even know it was us. We're f***ing toys.
Was the Rise of Skywalker's theatrical release the result of infighting between Lucasfilm, Disney, and J.J. Abrams? Was the final cut not really J.J.'s story, but Disney's itself to sabotage J.J. and Lucasfilm? And is there really some 192-minute perfect edit of this film that J.J. Abrams never got to release? Was J.J. a victim of sabotage? Well, let me give you my answer to the first part regarding if the Rise of Skywalker was stolen away from J.J. Abrams by Disney itself, because this rumor has reared its dumb head again. To put it bluntly, no. I do not believe that this film was ever taken over by Disney behind J.J. Abrams' back. I think that is a ridiculous statement made by people unable to accept their disappointment in this film. The Rise of Skywalker was entirely a Bad Robot production through and through, and the only true problem I can think of which created issues with the movie itself would be its tight deadline and the restrictive nature of unused Carrie Fisher footage. The editor, Marianne Brandon, admitted in various interviews that the timeline made it difficult to edit this film. In the face of a challenging schedule, the result is a rushed production with a lot left on the cutting room floor. At least that's how she puts it. She also goes on to say that she didn't really feel finished when the final print went out to theaters. That's absolutely reasonable and makes sense to me given the production and post-production timeline. If you remember, they had 3 less months in post-production than they had with The Force Awakens. But this rumor of the film being stolen away, and that's why it was poorly crafted and received, is interesting to me for a few reasons. First, all these JJ cut leaks seem to play right into the hands of 2 groups of Star Wars fans. There are angry fans who despise this trilogy and want nothing more than to believe that Lucasfilm is a complete disaster. This rumor is the perfect pot of bullshit to keep them preoccupied indefinitely. They see this rumor as proof that Bob Iger hates Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, and that as a whole, the company itself is barely functional from the inside out. The fabled alternate endings that never took place is proof that no one knows what they're doing. Then there is the group which I almost found myself in way back, who were disappointed in this film for valid reasons, but need to find an explanation for why the movie didn't turn out how they wanted it to. And the crazy thing is, the rumored information about what JJ really wanted to supposedly accomplish sounds like a checklist of all the things fans and haters of the sequel trilogy wished had happened in the final theatrical cut. If that doesn't raise an eyebrow, it should. So first, what was in this speculative, perfectly amazing 3-hour edit before he got secretly screwed over by Disney and Iger for reasons? Well, here's the rundown. It opens up in Age on Kloss with ray training. The Mustafar sequence is 2 minutes longer. Kylo can hear the breathing of Vader on Mustafar during his battle. Beaumont and Rose had much more significant roles. Rose shared 2 separate scenes with Rey on Age on Kloss, plus a few more with Leia. Beaumont, Rose, and Connix also had another scene on Exegol. There is no They Fly Now scene because that was for toy sales mandated by Disney. Rey was the one who actually killed what was left in Kylo Ren. It wasn't Leia. Leia pulled a Luke by using her last life energy to appear as Han to her son. Disney didn't get this, so they ended up just making Han a memory, and that's it. Kylo Ren's arc was more fleshed out with quiet moments of self-reflection. Rey also had moments of self-reflection throughout the film. J.J. Abrams didn't want the kiss in the movie and was forced to put it in. But also apparently the kiss had nothing to do with the reshoots. So this person claims the kiss happened through the power of editing, which makes no sense. Is this kiss a visual effect? Anyways, the next thing, the mind-blowing ending of the film, which isn't the ending, didn't just have voices of the Jedi past, but their Force ghosts were animated into the movie. You know, like a CGI Tarkin. And they were surrounding Rey to protect her, which would mean Ahsoka Tano would be dead in this version of the film. I'll admit, the fan edit of this idea came out amazing, and this is what it looks like. That's really cool. And the big one, unrelated to the actual story, J.J. Abrams apparently was so fed up with the Rise of Skywalker being tampered with that he yelled at everyone in a meeting and stated, "Why don't you just say directed by Lucasfilm?" And the person who is claiming all of this happened claims that their source wasn't present at the meeting, but they know someone who was. Also, I thought it was Disney who was trying to screw over JJ, not Lucasfilm. So, okay. So that's the rundown of what's supposed to be in this 192-minute perfect version of The Rise of Skywalker had Disney not sabotaged J.J. Abrams. So let's talk about why all of this is bullshit in regards to First, before the film came out, people were already speculating on how long the movie could be, and mostly I think that was because of the movie Endgame. And a lot of people, including myself, figured 3 hours sounds about right, but there wasn't any evidence for this. All the Star Wars films averaged 2 hours 15 minutes, so yeah, I think 3 hours was kind of a pipe dream. At best, there is one quote where JJ says it could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 4 hours. But again, this is proof of nothing other than the assembly cut being extraordinarily long. Plus, at the time of this statement by JJ, they had only edited 90 minutes of the film so far. Then there was one time that IMDb posted a runtime of 2 hours and 35 minutes, even though people claimed the movie was originally cut down to 2 hours and 37 minutes. But it was updated since the picture hadn't even been locked by that point until the official release of the runtime at 2 hours and 21 minutes. Beyond that, after the movie came out, Ray Carlson, the writer of the novel adaptation, said if everything in the book made it into the film, then of course, it would definitely have been a 3 hour long film. And of course, that's going to play into the mindset of what could have been, which further pushes people into believing this conspiracy of sabotage. Now, what I find extremely funny is that all of these rumors of JJ's story being bastardized can be refuted easily just by doing a bit of research. In regards to the role of Rose, which I found absurdly trimmed down myself, all explanations do point to it being a matter of realism regarding the unused takes of Leia from The Force Awakens. Rose's primary role at the Resistance base was intertwined with what Leia was up to in those scenes. No one has ever denied that these scenes or sequences exist. We have seen images of Rey and Rose together in a scene on Ajon Kloss from Star Wars Celebration. And JJ and Terrio explained that unfortunately, the realism needed for Leia and this sequence just wasn't hitting the level they wanted. And because of that, these scenes from the first act were ultimately scrapped. The last thing that they were considering was sidelining a character like Rose. And to suggest that is to just play into a false narrative. And if you think it's problematic to cut full sequences out of films, may I point to Exhibit A, The Last Jedi. One of the best sequences crafted for The Last Jedi isn't even in the movie. And I actually would argue this scene right here would have made The Last Jedi a bit more coherent in regards to why Rey finally left Ahch-To and Luke behind. But you hopefully get my point here. This was a significant scene removal from the film. It was finished and then it didn't make the cut. And remember, The Last Jedi has 14 deleted scenes? That's a lot of stuff. Now, in regards to the Beaumont scenes, Dominic Monaghan is on record saying there was a ton of stuff that was shot that didn't make it in, which again correlates with what J.J. Abrams and Terrio have stated in multiple interviews, including the film's editor. Most of these scenes happened in the first act, where the character Beaumont was helping Rey decode some of Luke's Jedi texts. Beaumont was a lore junkie and a historian, while also being this film's codebreaker. Now, one thing I will admit is that it appears that the visual dictionary for The Rise of Skywalker was crafted as the movie was still being edited, and the dead giveaway to this would be that a lot of quotes from the characters themselves in the visual guide are not in the film. And this is where we transition to the Mustafar section. If you have the art of The Rise of Skywalker, you can clearly see that this very high fantasy scene with a creature called the Webbish Bog was created for the film and opening sequence. Additionally, Hux and Allegiant General Pride were present on Mustafar, watching Kylo Ren in battle. This is where those quotes from Hux would have taken place that are in the visual dictionary. Ultimately, the people involved, and primarily J.J. Abrams, felt that the information that this scene gave was a bit redundant and could be conveyed more simply and quickly. Basically, it sounds like the sequence dragged on. However, from my editor's perspective, the opening of this film did deserve some breathing room, a proper establishing shot, and a bit of that high fantasy strangeness we love. But again, the removal wasn't of a nefarious nature. It wasn't. It was over a concern regarding runtime and importance to the story. Now, for probably the largest point of contention regarding this film, Kylo Ren's redemption back to Ben Solo. Personally, I find this part of the film fine. I like the ambiguity of what's going on inside of Ben Solo once Kylo Ren is extinguished. I like that kind of shit. And it's a little wild that he is absent from the film for about 20 minutes and doesn't speak at all until he dies, I'll give you that. But ever since his passing in the film, fans have been really upset that they didn't have more time with their favorite wide-chested sad boy. And to be frank, like I said, of course, I want some more Ben Solo, but that's not what happened. I kinda like these bittersweet endings, and I liked him fading away. It was, I don't know, it just worked for me. And of course, I do believe that there are more takes on the revival scene there, and it does look like there is potentially some talking between Ben and Rey that was once involved, but again, things that don't push the story further, or things that end up slowing down the pacing and timing, usually are scrapped. And I know that's weird for a film that seems like it's on coke. And if there ever was some major exchange, it's not in the book beyond the sound of Ben Solo's voice talking to Rey saying, "I'll always be with you." And then there's the other claim that some of the footage was reversed, but no, sorry, it wasn't. False. So the final and most hilarious thing, which I actually forgot to mention, is apparently JJ was horrified that Ben Solo fought the Knights of Ren. Apparently that wasn't supposed to happen either, but again, I think this sounds like bullshit, or... So anyway, I want to end this with something I think is important, and that's the actors responding to this claim. Specifically, Greg Grunberg, Snap Wexley. So the actor for Snap Wexley is basically besties with J.J. Abrams. He's been in pretty much all of his work, and he's also very close with Dominic Monaghan. When asked about the speculation that J.J. and everybody hated Rian Johnson's film, The Last Jedi was evil, and J.J.'s film was a reaction to that hate, he just scoffed at the idea as being ridiculous. All he's ever heard from J.J. apparently while he's on set was praise for that film and Rian Johnson himself as a brilliant filmmaker. But of course, angry fans will believe what they want regardless of information from the horse's mouth. He also goes on to speak to if JJ had any pressure from Disney overlords to cut anything out of the movie, and the answer was nope. It was a pretty casual yet obviously fast-paced production in that sense, and he reminds us that every film goes through several stages of editorial before picture lock. Gray goes on to say that sure, Disney gives notes, but ultimately JJ has the say in the final cut, and remember, the final picture was locked on November 25th, which J.J. Abrams mentioned. Clearly, he was involved with final picture lock, and then he screened it for a small group of people before December 19th. Why that piece of information is glossed over is anybody's guess. And finally, after the theatrical release, there was Daisy Ridley's comment on how she was disappointed in the reaction to the film. These comments came out during April of 2020, well after the apparent sabotaged cut was on DVD. Daisy was extremely proud of this film and all of the love that went into making it. So when she saw what was happening in the fandom, she was shocked. For her, all of the nonsense in January was super hard to deal with. And I'd say that that's a clear indicator that what was on screen was the intended product. So for those hoping to find some clarity in the situation, I hope that now you have some. People are still going to believe what they want, regardless of what I have said. However, I think it's concerning how many people trust other people who can't name their sources and frivolously make claims about the inner workings of gigantic production companies. I don't know when Star Wars became InfoWars and tabloid news, but I guess that's how you earn money these days on this platform. May the Force be with you, and don't believe bullshit.